The Ford Taurus. Love them or hate them. I think everyone over 18 has either rode in one, owned one, knows someone who's owned one, had a family member that's owned one. As I said, love them or hate them. But they were once known as the most popular selling sedan in the US until the Camry beat it. But we'll get into why the Camry beat it in a little bit. At this time, global energy crisis was going on. Oil was expensive, hard to get, everything like that. So prices of everything shot up. Because of that, everyone at Ford was wanting higher wages. Production was going up, everything was going up in price. So Ford was also starting to go bankrupt because no one wanted to buy their stuff. It was not good looking. Everything was basically a brick on wheels and had no power to it. So it kind of makes sense why no one wanted it. But yeah, how was Ford going to make this their next best selling vehicle? But it's the early 80s, and Ford is still struggling from the energy crisis and is struggling from also nearly going bankrupt. And another reason for that was because of JDM imports. They were becoming way more common and way more popular. Most of them were four cylinders, efficient, easy to work on, simplistic cars, reliable, so much more too. And because of that, they were trying to figure out a way to grab the consumer's attention. Well, it's pretty simple. Three words: make her curvy. Americans didn't want the same box on wheels that their dad had. So they took a step back from the square car and added some curves on it. And that's when in 85 they officially dropped the 86 Taurus, and people loved it. Came with two main engine options and four trim options. The first 2 year models had a 2.5 liter four cylinder HSC or high swirl combustion, which came in the L's and the elusive MT5s. One of my personal favorites is the 3 liter V6 Vulcan, which was an option in the L, the standard in the GLs and LXs. And Ford kept this lineup for only about 2 years until 88, and that's whenever they rolled out the cool stuff. Because now you can get the GL and LX, not just with the Vulcan, but with the S6 3.8 liter V6. So you could have a front wheel drive Mustang basically. And off the record here, don't know if this is true, but according to some of the research I've done, they made like similar horsepower. Not the same. Like I think the S6 made like 15, 20 more horsepower, but they made close horsepower. And I don't know. Feels like I'm forgetting something. Oh yeah, the SHO. Super High Output is what it stands for. It was a joint effort between Ford and Yamaha starting back in 84. It was a dual overhead cam, 3 liter, variable length intake manifold. I believe I'll pop up the correct one right here. V6. It was originally built for a mid-engine supercar nicknamed the GN34 that was supposed to rival against Ferrari. Well, basically what happened is, since Ford was having a bunch of issues, as we already said, they had to reallocate the funds. So they scrapped it. And they took the funds and started up the project that later became the Explorer and the Taurus SHO. Well, they had a bunch of these V6s lying around. And they're like, what the hell are we going to do with them? Like, we've already spent millions of dollars on this. We ain't about to melt these down and turn them into a Windsor or an Essex or a Vulcan or whatever the hell. So their next idea was take a bump and throw it in a front wheel drive car with a beefed up suspension and a 5-speed and a nice interior. And so that, boys and girls, is how the SHO was born. And the other thing is too, is that this Yamaha engine is a 24 valve dual overhead cam engine, and it is paired with a 5-speed, as I said. And roughly the top speed of these were like 143, 140 to 150, somewhere in there, with about 220 horsepower and about 200 pound-feet of torque. So in 92, Ford dropped the second generation of Taurus and SHO. And there's not much of a difference between this generation and the last. Basically, I think they got rid of the 4 cylinders and kept only the V6s, and that was it for the second generation. But you had 2 SHO options. You had the manual one, which is normal 3 liter, and then you had the automatic one, which made just 20 more pound-feet of torque, so they had to make it a 3.2 liter, just a slightly bigger bore, so I'm sure just slightly bigger pistons or slightly bigger rings. Probably nothing much different. Now into my favorite generation, or most people's least favorite and more controversial generation, the Gen 3. In 96, you can now get the new streamlined flying saucer or bean-shaped car with not just the old Vulcan V6, but a new 3-liter dual overhead cam V6. Nope, not the Yamaha, a Duratec. Something else also happened this year that was new, and that was a 235 horsepower 3.4 liter V8 SHO engine. So yeah, they got rid of the 6-cylinder and decided to go for 8, which was kind of weird that they decided to do that in a sedan, but it wasn't at the same time. And the reason I say that is because in 98, you had the SVT division team up and make an SVT Contour. Similar to the Taurus, but not at the same time. Instead of it having a V8, had a 2.5 liter V6, also the Duratec, dual overhead cam. And it came paired with a 5-speed. Well, cool thing about that is that those 5 speeds and the MT5 5 speeds is what a lot of people throw inside of their manual V8 shows, or is how they do their V8 show conversions. But besides the point, on a real note, they wanted to go big or go home for this generation, and unfortunately they decided to go home. And the reason I say that is because the third gens, you don't really see any of them on the road. You mostly see fourth gens and on. And that's because the thirds were just straight garbage. Like, I owned one for like 3 years. It broke every month. Something new broke. Like, no shit. Everything broke on that car. I replaced everything on that car, all kinds of crap, including the transmission, which was a big issue for these. For the third gens, that is. Transmissions were not good. And yeah, and they only made them for 3 years too. So that's another reason. But yeah, they went home on this generation because the V8s were also very unreliable. Pistons and the valves like to kiss a lot because the cam sprockets like to just come undone. Yeah, so sounds cute and all that until you realize that you just blew up your very expensive to maintain and very rare V8 Yamaha engine. But yeah, basically you had the cams and the transmissions that were a ticking time bomb. But yeah, a lot of people say that if they just put the 5-speed back in it, then that would have solved a lot of the issues. In my opinion, if they just fixed the cam issue and fixed it with 5-speed, those would probably be the best cars you could ever get. I'm probably wrong because I know quite a few people that have worked on those V8s and they say that they're absolute garbage. Because of how faulty and honestly ugly the third gens were and the steady decline of sedan sales in the US, the SHO and honestly Taurus ceased to exist for a little while there. But that didn't stop fans though. One of the biggest Taurus modders on the internet is known as the Blue Turd, and he actually has a one-off billet block to the point where I think the heads are billet, the block is billet, it's a sump system, all kinds of other stuff too. Super cool. Can push like 2,000 horsepower or something like that. And if you want to know, no, the V6 stock cranks cannot handle over 1,000 horsepower. He figured that out the hard way. But he also had another cool build. He had a 4th gen Taurus with the 3rd gen V8 in it and the MT5 transmission. So yeah, that's actually pretty cool. Here's a photo of it. After 11 years and 2 generations, Ford decided, let's bring the SHO back. But they brought the V6 back instead. Not the V8 as much as all of us would have liked it to be. Like, it would have been awesome if it was a 4.6 or a 5.0 put in that car. But no, beggars can be choosers. Unfortunately, we got the 3.5. Not the best engine, but still, pretty cool engine. So yeah, the basic ones just came with the normal 3.5 and were front wheel drive. Unless it was the SELs or the police interceptors, they came in all wheel drive. But yeah, it came with the twin turbo Duratec 35 EcoBoost. I mean, whatever you want to call it. And came with the 6-speed AMT transmission, which is an automatic manual trans. Front wheel drive ones made only about 288, 300 horsepower, somewhere in there, while the EcoBoosts make about 365 to about 380. And the difference between the models, of course, is not just the engine, but also the performance, brake, and suspension packages that were added onto the SHO. And you could even get an even nicer model of the SHO with even bigger brakes on it and an even nicer suspension. And as of 2019, that wasn't just the last SHO, but also the last Taurus released to the public. And no, I don't count the Chinese Taurus as a Taurus. That's, I think, just a rebadged fusion. But in my opinion, this car is probably one of the most influential vehicles, not just to me, but in general. But it was literally the best-selling car from 85 to 97, or 86 to 97, until the Camry took it over. But screw that. But as I said earlier, if most of you all are like over 18, then you know what I'm talking about automatically. You don't even need this video. So to most people, this car just seems like a normal, common hunk of junk car. Most people don't care about it. I know, because mine was covered in scratches left and right, even though it was a minty car whenever I bought it. But this was technically my first car, but it was technically my second vehicle. Before this, I owned a 2000 Frontier. And just long story short with that, engine was blown, transmission was blown, everything in that thing was blown up. Had 330,000 on it whenever I sold it. Don't know how I sold it, but my actual first car was a 97 Taurus, just a normal base model G, which if I think correctly was only made in 96, 97, and that was it. And mine was actually a nice model. It actually had the 6-disc CD changer in the back. But whenever it got crashed by the previous owner, I guess they plucked that out of there because it was nowhere to be found. Cats were also missing, but it was partially straight piped, and here's a video of that. Ready? That. Learn how to replace a torque converter and everything like that. Figured out that those transmissions are very thirsty also and very heavy. But it was really the one that I learned to work on. Yeah, the Frontier, I did similar work to what I did on there. I did suspension, brakes, and a few other things. But on this car, I literally built it. Like every nut and bolt was touched on this car. Nothing was left not replaced whenever I was done with it. And ended up getting into an accident with it and totaling it. But as I said, this was like my first real car. I learned everything with it. And it was just, I loved it. It was a fun little car. Like, there's not much else I can really say about it. It's spacious, it's comfy. It was fun, it was fast. Yeah. But these cars are just awesome. And it's definitely one of those things that I'm gonna most likely make my kid listen to me talk about all the time. But fun cars, great. I love them. They're not the best cars at the same time, but they're still amazing. Alright, so yeah, there you go. Video on a Ford Taurus. If I missed anything, just comment it down below, and I'll be more than happy to get back to you. But if you all want me to continue making these informative videos, I'd like to see that down below. And if y'all do want me to keep doing them, what kind of vehicle would you all like to see me do next? And it doesn't have to be a vehicle. It can be an engine. It could be a company. It could be anything like that. I don't really care. But yeah, I've got socials if y'all want to follow them. They're linked down below. And yeah.